look at the highest level athletes. Look at anybody who does anything at a super high level. If their mind is not in it, if they're not focused, if they're not, bought in or buying in to, what they're, whether it's a championship match or whatever it is, their performance will suffer. It doesn't matter how much experience and how talented they are. The great example in the book that I referred to just a minute ago, Limitless, is Jim is talking about a superhero flying her way to save the day, like Captain Marvel or something like that, right? But along the way, as the bridge is crumbling and people are trapped and she needs to get there fast so that she can rescue everybody, she starts to have flashbacks of all the moments in her life where she was told she wasn't good enough or couldn't do that or all these negative things. And then when he said it, and right before she gets to the bridge, she decides that she's just going to go sit on the curb and sulk and feel bad about herself. Does that sound like a superhero movie or what? And it's kind of like, no, that's not what the superhero is supposed to do. It's like, no, they were defeated by themselves, by their own messaging, their own self-talk, their own limited self-talk and negative self-talk. So, I mean, I think right now, where we are in this world right now, I think there's a lot of people that are living that way. Yeah. And it's frightening, and I feel awful for them. Like they don't have the right words to express themselves. They don't have the right power source to plug into, and I, obviously for you and I, it's a spiritual thing, right? We tap into God. And we tap into our friends and the culture that we have where we work and to our family and people that that we decide that we want to be surrounded by. But a lot of people don't have that. They're surrounded by negativity. They're surrounded by coworkers that don't like them or don't say the right things, or bosses that are awful to work for, right? Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, I'm super passionate about this topic. Like, you just throw a flame on there. But, I know this in every cell of my being, is that the battleground is the mind, right? We hear this all the time. Even the people who are like, mindset, which is true. But a lot of times we're in this battle with ourselves, and it can feel like this tug of war, and we're trying to be positive. And we're in this, like, I'm trying to be positive. I'm trying to talk myself into it. But there's so much noise. And so to all the listeners out there, I want to say, like, make no mistake, the battleground is in your mind, but the battle is for your heart. The battle is for your heart, because your heart is the gateway to the soul. And, again, the superhero story is if you win the battle up here, you get to the heart, people become disheartened. They lose heart, they lose faith, they lose courage, they become discouraged, they become disconnected. So, how do we tap into that heart power? Because that's really what the threat is, right? To the ego, to what I believe is the darkness that's consuming a lot of the world right now, is just like, we have to protect this heart space and know that the battleground is the mind. And so all of this noise and information that we're surrounded ourselves, with all the time, it's not new. Those doubts have been there for thousands of years. The same beliefs that we call limiting beliefs, it's just noise that's been planted. And we have just trained ourselves to tune in to certain frequencies, like that doubt frequency, that fear frequency, and it's become familiar. So it's like a radio channel that's always getting, oh, that's familiar. You don't even realize you're turning the dial to it because it's on autopilot, right? So this is really about training the mind to become a tool instead of becoming a tool to the mind, right? Like, I don't want to be the tool. I want to use this as a tool to support me, to navigate me, to whatever. And it's like, this is where I think we really get to be like, okay, I get to shift the order of allegiance here, like the mind does not control me. Something controls the mind, right? It's either going to be everything external or it's going to be from within. So it's like, which one is it going to be, right? So a lot of times I'm like, oh, we get to shift the order of allegiance. Like, you serve me, I don't serve you.
It's really cool, and it's such an interesting topic, because the brain and the mind aren't the same.
They're not the same. Yeah, I really think we need to say that.
Your brain is an organ. You know, like a lot of other organs in your body, right? It has a purpose. It has, and it's a very important organ. Maybe the most important besides the heart, right? But the mind is different.
Yeah.
That's your consciousness. That's your soul. That's who you are. Everybody has a brain, and those brains are quite similar looking in size and shape and everything else. But everybody also has a mind and a soul that's unique. That's a fingerprint for them. Mm-hmm. And some people's have put in the work on that mind, on that mindset.
Yeah.
And even people that I've met, I've been blown away by people in their 20s sometimes, and I'm like, wow, I wish I was where you're at when I was in my 20s, you know? Like, they just have such a great, mindset and awareness and outlook and perspective and all these things that seemingly come through age, through experience, through maturity and stuff. But some people those seeds were planted by probably some really good parenting, or they were surrounded by just some terrific people. And so I guess my point is, all of us need to focus on this and think about these things and think about how we can continually make strides in that direction of self-improvement and mindset shifts and thinking. Worry doesn't help anybody. What does worry, and anxiety and all that stuff, all that internal pressure we put on themselves, what does that do for us positively? What does that help us with, right?
It's like being in a rocking chair and you're like worried. You're worried. It's like you're moving, but you're not going anywhere. And who has added even one day to their life by worrying, right? And like,
correct.
So it doesn't make anything go faster. In fact, it just slows everything down and makes it way more painful and harder.
Right.
But I think the key is understanding what you said is the mind is a consciousness of all of this noise and programs that we have decided to plug into and adapt to. And so once we recognize that, we can actually pull back and start to observe our thoughts and observe our behavior. You said experiences, right? An experience happens. It's like, oh, well, that didn't go according to plan, or this isn't going according to plan. Let me pull back and see what's actually going on. Let me get myself out of the trenches. And we can start to become an observer of the thoughts, because doubt isn't, again, like you, I'm sure you experience doubt. I have thoughts of doubt all the time. I just choose not to embody them and invite them in the doorway. It's like, okay, I feel it or I experience it. And then it's like, we don't get to plug into that frequency.
we feel the doubts knocking. And sometimes we even open the door a little bit with the chain still on the door, and we just kind of see the doubt. And we're like, we're not going to let you in.
Yeah.
And we close the door, and then we continue to focus on what's going to move us in a better direction. Where I think a lot of people, when that doubt comes knocking, they open that door wide open and just let it flood in.
Yeah.
I do think so. You have to be a good gatekeeper. I think you said the word gatekeeper. Did you not?
Yeah, I think, for me, it's really knowing that is floating around. It's not unique to us. It's so easy to feel alone. Like, I'm the only one who has these horrible thoughts or these fears about what's happening in the world right now, or, this low self-esteem about my body or whatever. But the reality is it's been there. That noise has been there for thousands and thousands, as long as humans have been on this planet,
Right. So
we can rest and know that we're not alone, become an observer. And then really, I would invite anyone listening, like, what are you anchoring yourself back to? Because, to have that level of conviction or confidence or, steadfastness, you've got to be grounded to something, right? And I think that's another huge thing, is like, people don't know what anchors them, right? So it could be the relationship, but then when the relationship goes sideways, they don't know who they are, and that doubt and all that stuff floods. Obviously this is where I believe, having something in, like your spirit, your soul has got to be anchored to knowing that you are supported. There's something so much greater than you at play here. We have a God who is like orchestrating so much behind the scenes, and you are not so powerful that you've screwed up his plan for your life. Even if you screwed up the last thing, he's going to give you another door pretty soon. You just have to position yourself to say yes.